Welcome to the Matter Financial Report. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with our host, Michael Matter. The only thing that matters today is the Matter Financial Report and our host, Michael Matter, and the message he has for you, our listeners and viewers out there. Michael, great to see you. Thanks for having me on the show once again. And I've drank about 40 cups of coffee this morning to get ready for the show, just so I could keep up with you today.
Well, Tony, I don't usually have breakfast. I had breakfast today with a wholesaler, and I had my normal routine. I had an energy drink out the door, drop off my son at school. It's about a 40-minute commute to my office, so I'd take about 40 minutes to drink my energy drink. But when I got to breakfast, instead of the office, I ordered a cup of coffee and I had a second cup of coffee. So I'm right there with you. We're ready to go.
Oh, we are ready today. We're the information.
I feel sorry for our listeners, but we're excited. I hope they're excited as we are.
Yeah, I do too. Well, hey, today's an exciting show for those that are, I'd say, anywhere from 45 plus, especially 50 or 55 plus, or in retirement. This show's all about you have permission to spend during retirement. And how can I get that permission to spend money on fun things in retirement rather than just constantly be worried on whether I have enough or running out? Today, we're going to talk about that and how you can make sure you can spend during retirement. And I'm sure you've known clients on both ends of the spectrum. Michael, let me ask you, have you had clients come in and say, Michael, there's no way I can ever retire. I just haven't saved enough. And then you run the reports on their finances. You talk to them, you go over everything, and you say to them, actually, you could retire tomorrow if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people
yesterday, literally yesterday, Tony.
Sometimes people think that they're nowhere near ready, but other people come to you and they're like, I want to retire today. And you might have to say, well, you're going to have to work a 5 more years probably, but we can do things to speed this up. But you have people in retirement who, no matter how much they have, they won't spend because they spent their life saving, right? And I bet you have some clients like that it's really hard to get them to spend. They might have millions saved, but they won't spend that money. They won't, like, we'd like to travel or buy an RV, but I don't know. And you know what? If you plan for it, you can do it. It's just a matter of planning ahead for it. Isn't that what we're talking about today?
That's exactly what we want to talk about today, Tony. And you're right about it. There's usually two ends of the spectrum. People that have spent their entire life and they don't have enough to saved up for the retirement. That's, a tough conversation when I meet with someone that's interested in putting a retirement plan together.
Sure.
And I say, okay, I'm looking at your assets currently and I hear what your goals are. Let's put a report to it. Let's find out. I kind of know before I ever run any report what it's going to look like.
Right.
No, you're not retiring at 45 years old. You have $50,000 saved. I don't know where you think you're going to generate income from.
Right.
Right. And then, like you said, I just had a conversation with someone over the phone yesterday. We've already run reports for them. My question to them was, you said you want to work 5 or 10 more years. Is that because you want to work or because you think that you need to work? Because currently you have enough saved. We've run the reports. You can, retire with the lifestyle that we've discussed. You don't have to wait 5 or 10 years.
You can do it right now.
There's both conversations happen all the time.
Sure. And then that leads into planning ahead, knowing where you're at. And once you know where you're at, having permission to spend and knowing that, I think a lot of people feel guilty even about everyday splurges once they're in retirement. For, like, we were talking coffee drinks earlier.
Yes,
you stop by you go through Starbucks or you buy gadgets or the latest electronic, the latest iPhone or something. And they worry that these purchases are going to derail their retirement, whether they're retiring in a year or whether they're already in retirement. A lot of people worry about that, right?
Right. So there's two articles that we want to reference, Tony. They're both by Kiplinger. The first one is a small splurges that won't derail your retirement. And the other one's also by Kiplinger. Are you a retirement millionaire too afraid to spend? So the first half of the show, let's talk about putting together a plan so that those small splurges don't derail retirement. Those
Right.
coffee purchases that we're talking about, going out to dinner, going on trips before retirement, right? Making sure that those habits don't start to build, so that they are just little splurges. Okay. There's a generational gap between yourself and myself, right? You are a part of what generation?
I'm Gen X,
Gen
and
X.
I'm on the older end of Gen X. I just turned 60, so I'm thinking hard about retirement. I mean, not that I'm going to retire anytime soon. I want my plan. See, but my plan doesn't matter. It's, man plans, God laughs is the old joke. But my company might have something to say about that. My health, as I've said on past shows, but my goal is to retire at 67 or 70 if my voice holds out, my health holds out. I love my job and I want to work that long. And I think right now where I'm at, and we've talked about this too. I probably will need. My wife and I are planning on working to full retirement age, but we know something might happen. So, yeah, I'm part of Gen X. There is a generation gap between us.
So I'm a millennial, and I'm, I think, on the older side of millennials as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
we're kind of sandwiched, right? You're probably sandwiched between when you were a Gen Xer entering the workforce and all of the baby boomers were talking
Yes.
how bad the work ethic of Gen Xers were. You probably
Yes.
considered yourself more of a baby boomer. You're like, I'm not a part of that generation.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
when millennials were entering the workforce and all the Gen Xers were complaining about millennials,
Yep.
I didn't feel that they were really talking about me. It was more my peers and people younger.
That's
Um,
exactly right.
right. And so I bring that up because every generation faces different realities as they enter the workforce and economic forces and habits. So millennials and Gen Z are instantaneous. They want everything today. They want promotions, they want raises, they want to eat dinner or have it delivered to them. They want to order everything. They like to
Yeah.
be
It's like
entertained.
no big deal. DoorDash every night. I'm gonna go home and order DoorDash. That's no problem. And I'm looking at that money going, holy cow,
And
that's expensive.
right. So thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to bring up is that we're talking about, if you buy coffee, that's a splurge. Okay. If you do it every once in a while, or if you go out to dinner or you go to a concert, maybe it's once a month, once every 3 months. It's not an everyday habit. It's a splurge. Those purchases are not going to derail your retirement plans. But if you let those things creep into more of a habit and now you're ordering a coffee every single day, DoorDash
DoorDash
is
every
coming to
other day or every day. Yeah.
I mean, I had a neighbor, and I'm not exaggerating. I think it was 3 times a day, DoorDash was at their house, and I just
What?
couldn't imagine. It was a couple, so it was just 2 people. Every meal was DoorDash to their house.
Well, I hope they're in the top 1% of income earners because that's outrageously expensive. I hope they're not spending money on
Cold
that
food
should
and
be going
spending
into
extra
their
money, like, geez, this is crazy.
do they
Yeah.
have retirement funds? Are they funding them? I hope so. And there's nothing wrong with DoorDash or eating out and splurging, but if it turns into lifestyle creep if you do it every day. You can't sustain an $8 cup of coffee every single day from age 21 until 65 and expect to not have it affect your ability to purchase other things. I mean, these things all add up. So you do have to look at that, but you should be able to splurge. And even in retirement, you want to have that money to also splurge. You want to still be able to go out and get Starbucks when you're retired. You don't want to have to cut everything out once you retire either.
Exactly. So it's building those habits early so that you can carry on the same lifestyle in retirement. So you're not
Right.
drastically changing. So maybe you did splurge while you're working because your income levels are up. You
Yep.
thought you could afford to, but now you're retired. You have all this time on your hands, but now you don't have any money to spend
Yeah.
because you spent it all while you're earning. So just creating good habits while you're still earning is very important. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the first thing. Don't let those splurges become habits. Just
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly, and I think, you make a great point there. It's um, lifestyle creep is bad, and you got to watch out for it. Nobody wants to take a pay cut in retirement, and yeah, you got to watch it. I think that's a great point.
And so we've talked about this. It's a common theme on a lot of our shows. It's just being intentional. So I know
Yes.
on the last show we even talked about this. It's at least if you're still working and your employer offers a 401k program and a match, at a minimum, make that contribution and get that match. It's free money. Don't ever leave free money on the table.
Right.
Right. So that's just one habit that should be created. But the other thing is being intentional about all of your spending.
Right.
So
Where is your money going? Make your money work for you. Is all your money working for you, or is it just flittering away? My wife and I finally, when we finally started sitting down once a month, doing a monthly budget for the next month, that's when our spending got in control and in check. And that's when we saw money was just for stuff we didn't even like. Where's all our money going? That's a problem.
subscriptions,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I live about 40 minutes, like I said, from my office. So I used to live closer. And when I moved, I knew that some of my spending habits were going to change. Gas was going to go
Yes.
up
Yep.
and meal prices, or I was going to have to, eat lunch or dinner more often, not at my house because I can't just drive down the street and have lunch at my house. So it was
Yeah.
an expense that was going to go up.
Sure.
So if I'm spending more now, where am I going to cut it from?
Right. Right.
In my budget.
Exactly.
The other
Yeah.
thing we talked about last week, Tony, was kind of reverse engineering our budgets.
Hmm.
So if we don't want to make major habitual changes in retirement because we're forced to, include a large chunk of savings up front. That should be the first part that you and your wife are budgeting for, or anyone is budgeting for, Tony, is we know exactly how much we want to put away for retirement or a rainy day or our family trip first, and then budget for your spending. So make sure that you have enough saved up front and then budget your spending after. Because if we budget our spending first, we're going to spend whatever's left over, right? And we've talked about that before.
Yeah, it's like, and you alluded to it earlier. It's like my wife and I, where'd our money go? If it goes into our checking account, it disappears somehow, right? That's the general fund, as I like to call it, and it's just like poof, it's gone. It's like your city, state, and federal governments. They have a general fund, and the tax dollars we pay that go into the general fund, right? I
They're
mean,
generally gone.
yeah, they're generally gone. We don't know. That's why it's the word earmarked. If you earmark your money, if your money has a purpose, if every dollar has a purpose, and maybe that purpose is $5 for a coffee every day, but that has to be part of a plan and a purpose, and you've got to get into that habit before retirement. That's what I hear you saying, Michael. Is
Right.
that right?
And that generational difference, right? So maybe the younger generation is going to have their DoorDash more than we think that they should, or they're going
Right.
to keep getting that
Sure.
Starbucks coffee.
Yeah.
Like, get off my lawn. Well, I don't care. I'm going to keep doing these habits. As long as it's budgeted in and they are
Yeah.
still saving, it should not derail their retirement. As long as they're intentional with their purchases
Yeah.
and they're still saving for retirement. That's important.
Yep. That is hugely important. And I think that's really good. So be intentional with your spending. And don't feel guilty about splurges, but don't let them become habits that could end up really adding up over time. And don't let that lifestyle creep in there. We've talked about that. And you mentioned you glossed over something, and this comes up in a number of shows, but it's worth repeating, and that is, in order to have a successful retirement and be able to have money to freely feel not guilty about spending in retirement, you got to take advantage of the 401ks, the retirement plans, and especially that match. I know a lot of people, especially now when they move companies or start working at a company, they might choose, or they're automatically enrolled for 3% in their plan. So they're putting 3% of their paycheck in. That's not going to be enough, especially as you get older. You want to increase that amount. A lot of people say 10 to 15%. By the
Yes.
time you hit 50, you should have worked up to that. And a lot of companies, they'll match up to 6%, but the auto enroll is only 3. See, that's almost on purpose. It's like you're leaving free money or part of your compensation package on the table. You're like saying, "No, I don't want paid that extra money." Why would you do that? I'm
Yeah,
glad you brought that up. You got to take advantage. You have to put into your 401k at least as much to get the full match, right?
you're right. And as you mentioned, it should be probably more, but at a
Right.
at a bare minimum, what your employer's matching. If they are not matching, a lot of employers don't
Yeah.
still contribute because
Oh, yeah, you still have to
3% you won't
contribute to a
even notice
plan.
it coming out of your check. But you're right, it
Right.
should probably be closer to 10.
Yeah,
But if
and you're
you're
not gonna miss it
automatically
because you're not gonna have it. It's never gonna
exactly.
hit that general account, so you're not gonna miss it. Just have it automatically taken out of your check, put into that 401k, or you can even split it between the traditional 401k and Roth if your company offers that, which more and more if you work for a larger company, I'm sure they have it, and you might have to ask about it, but, that might be an option for some people, right?
Right. So you and I, unfortunately, we've talked about this on the show also. We're experts on not doing the right thing when we first started out. So that's
Sure.
why we know how important it really is.
Right,
So
exactly.
contact your HR department. If you're listening to the show, you're still an employed. Contact your employer and your HR and say, hey, I haven't talked to anyone about my employee benefits in a long time. I have questions about my 401k contributions and matches. If that's not a conversation you're already having, it's important because you and I, unfortunately, I worked somewhere for 10 years, first 10 years of my professional life without a contribution because I was told I didn't need to. And
Same.
before
Oh,
I got
same.
into the
Yeah.
industry. So
Yeah,
we
I
got bad
never
advice and
yep, I didn't, I thought, "Well, I'm not anywhere near I got so much time, I don't need to put into that thing," and somebody said, "Yeah, you don't wanna," and even my parents were not great with money, and so I didn't learn they're great people and the nicest people on earth, and I love them. But my mom was like, "The stock market is gambling, and you don't want anything to do with it." She was raised strict Baptist. She's a strict Baptist, so it's like gambling's bad, and that's what the stock market
mhm.
is. And I'm like, "Well, if you look at the last 100 years, that line goes from starts at 0, and now it's way up here. Wish I had been contributing to this." It's an investment tool like anything else, and it's not for everybody, and you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? As you've often said. But yes, you have to be saving, you have to have growth. Figure out a way that fits in with what your needs are to do that, right?
Right.
I wish
So
I I wish hindsight's 2020. Everybody wishes they'd started sooner. The best
exactly.
time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right?
Absolutely. So if you've never gone through the process of putting a financial plan together, that's what we do at our office, the Matter Financial Group. Give us a call, 916-469-9016. We can look at, are you ready for retirement or do you need to start to save more? Right. We'll run reports for you that will highlight what you're doing well or what you might need to pick up some areas of slack for you. So give us a call, 916-469-9016, or you can go to our website, thematterfinancialgroup.com. That's thematterfinancialgroup.com.
All right. And we want to say hey to our radio listeners. This show started off as a podcast only. It's on all the major podcast sites, still is. And hey to our podcast listeners out there. But Michael, you've got big news. We're on the radio now. And so hello to our radio listeners out there. That's awesome. And we're on 104.7 FM, 890 AM, Sacramento. We've got Fox Sports, great station, a lot of great programming, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Oh, I didn't realize we'd even have the opportunity to be on the air. So it's a blessing. We're super excited about it. So,
Yeah.
yes, if this is the first time you're hearing the show from the radio, we've done a podcast for a little over a year now, Tony. So all of our uh, podcasts are archived, like Tony mentioned, and then we're also on YouTube.
Yeah.
So the Matter Financial Group or the Matter Financial Report on YouTube, you can also see us. So you can listen to us, our old shows. You can watch us if you like to on YouTube. And now, as you mentioned, you can hear us on the radio. So we're super excited about that.
Yeah, and as you'll see, if you actually watch us on YouTube, I almost feel sorry for you because people for my entire life have told me, Michael, that I have the perfect face for radio. And you'll see right away that Michael's the eye candy. and the brains. And so I'm here for, I'm not sure, to bring up pizza once an episode. But the thing about KASC is the state, or KSAC is the station, yes.
Mhm.
And again, 104.7 FM, 890 AM. And I really want to say hey to the listeners out there. Now, Fox Sports Sacramento is Sacramento's exclusive home for NASCAR, right? We're on the station that's the exclusive home for NASCAR. So I imagine, Michael, that it's only a matter of time until we see a team, the Matter Financial team, and we see the Matter Financial Report logo with the lion on the hood of a car racing around the track. I'm sure you'll be sponsoring some NASCAR events out there, won't you?
Yeah, I'm sure that's within the realms of our marketing budget. They do have a road track that they do in Napa. That's the closest event here in
Sure.
Sacramento area that comes through every year in June.
Sure.
So maybe, yeah, we'll look into that.
I'm just putting you on the spot, razzing you. But yeah, I mean, it's so cool because KSAC is Sacramento's exclusive home for NASCAR.
Yes.
A great sports talk and great financial talk with the Matter Financial Report. And we say hey to all our listeners out there. So, Michael, now we've talked about giving yourself permission, but let's talk about that. That there was that Kiplinger article that we were talking about before the show, and you mentioned it at the top of the show, and it's called "Are You a Retirement Millionaire Too Afraid to Spend?"
Yes.
Have you had people like that? I alluded to this at the beginning of the show, but let's talk about that. Some people are really hesitant to even spend, no matter how much they have. They want to hold on to it tight, right?
It's a very common situation, Tony, and I think it's mostly because they've been such good savers and they like to see that balance in their account,
Right.
and they
Like
don't
to
like
see
to
it
see it.
grow.
They love to see it grow, and they don't ever want to see it be less than what they, had the day before. So
Right.
spending, they start to see it deplete, and it makes them uneasy. So that's where those plans come in handy, Tony. So we just want to match up your goals for retirement. What do you want to do in retirement? What does retirement look like for you? Give us an age that you'd like to retire. Tell us how much income you'd like to have in retirement. We'll put a report together for you and a roadmap to make sure that you can and not run out of money.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a part of that budget is an extra $15,000, $20,000 a year for that trip.
Yep.
Right? That'd be a pretty nice trip. If it's just two people, $20,000, you could probably go anywhere in the world and have a very nice vacation.
Yes.
But if you're not budgeting for it, you don't expect what it might look like if you take out that $20,000 for someone that's been such a good saver their entire life, it's very tough for them to envision spending that amount of money on themselves.
Right. And it's a matter of where you have that money too. Like when you plan, if you go into retirement with a plan, working with somebody like yourself, you're going to have that planned out. You're like, okay, the first summer I'm retired, I want to take my kids and their kids and all the significant others to Disney World. Okay, that's going to be with everybody involved, 11 people. If you want to do that and pay for airfare and housing and the tickets, that's going to be a lot of money. And are you going to pull that right from an IRA? Is it going to be taxable? So you'll work with them to say, okay, let's have money that's in this fund for when you want to do something like that. So you're not pulling out of the market, or you're not pulling out of a taxable account, creating a huge tax year your first year. Things like that come into play, right?
Yeah. One of the main reports that we run when we put a financial plan together for your family is called a retirement compass. And just like you said, it shows every single account, the expected rate of growth, and the taxable consequences for withdrawing from those accounts. So we show what account we would draw from and when and where to prove out that you're going to be okay in retirement. And on top of that, Tony, we do what's called a Monte Carlo simulation. So I don't know if you're familiar with what a Monte Carlo simulation is.
That's a new one, Monte Carlo. I
Well,
like the sounds
home
of
and
it.
NASCAR, Monte Carlo.
It sounds like a little 007 James Bond
Right.
action there.
So Monte Carlo is a simulation that we run for our planned reports to make sure that it's an algorithm, repeated random samplings to obtain a numerical result. So let's dumb that down because I didn't do a very good job of explaining what that means. But statistically speaking, if we can expect a rate of return of 6%, we know it doesn't happen on a straight line. It's going to happen on a random basis.
Yep.
We run thousands of comparisons on when that 6% return might have a downturn or earn more than 6% to make sure that all different scenarios have been thought of to make sure that the plan is bulletproof for you. So we do know that there's going to be years where the market's down.
Yeah, like 2022. If you go back to 2022, it's been a few years now. That was a down year in the market. Stocks and bonds were down.
Right. So if a year like 2022 happens, does that blow up your entire financial plan? Or are you going to be okay?
And by running that Monte Carlo simulation and having it check all the different options, you'll know, okay, if my second year in retirement, we have a down year, will my plan last?
Right. And on top of the Monte Carlo, we do just another more basic sequence of return with a very negative outlook for the first couple of years of your plan to make sure that it can withstand 3 straight negative years right off the bat.
Wow.
So if they can withhold those 3 negative years of 12%, 15, and 13% negative returns right off the bat, you're going to be okay. We can show that to you in our reports. We'll say, okay,
Wow.
we don't expect every year to be a 6% positive return for the rest of your life. We know the market doesn't work that way, but if we can prove to you that there will be ups and downs, and here's what it would look like to your portfolio, we're going to be okay. And so we run that in our reports.
Right. We know that there have been years that have been down almost 20%. We know there have been years that have been up over 20%. We've experienced some of those years in the last 3 years. So it is interesting to look at that, and important that you do look at those things and run those reports. I can't even imagine retiring nowadays. That's why they call it a new generation of retirement, the new gen, because it's not like your dad's retirement where it was a lot simpler. And now there's so many factors, and you have to, because back then people had pensions, Social Security, and, cost of living was lower. They just factored in a bit for inflation and you're done. Now, with healthcare costs the way they are, and long-term care situations, people living longer, tax situations constantly changing, it is really important to have a solid plan in place, isn't it?
You are your pension now too, right? So that's
for
not as
most
many people have
people.
the pension. So you are your pension. You have to plan ahead for yourself.
Yes.
You have to have a game plan. So
You've got a lump sum. You're probably retiring with 1 or 2 lump sums, like 401k or IRA, and your spouse might have one. And then you're okay. What do you do? How do I know how long this lump sum will last? What if there's market volatility? And you're talking about strategies and possible solutions for those things. And I think it's just important. But what will work for one person might not work for another. That's why you have to get to know each person personally and base things off their personal goals, their personal situation, their time horizons. Look at family health history. There's a lot of things you look at, aren't there?
Yeah, we build a full profile. We do a risk analysis. I show you all the reports that I could run for you and your family that we can include with the financial plan. Tony, I'm going to let you describe the financial planning process for me so that people understand what it looks like to go through the financial planning with my firm.
Sure. Yeah, it's great. You go in there and you get to meet Michael, and you're so enamored with just meeting this great guy that the rest just kind of flows by. It's like, what just happened? This is awesome. No, seriously, you run reports, and you just come in and bring these accounts. And I know that you're offering a no charge, no obligation consultation. That's how you do it. There's no obligation to continue. You'll run some reports. You'll say, okay, here's where you're at. You can they'll ask you some questions. And then if you want to continue and work with you and become a client then you can do that. If not, no problem, but you'll at least know where you're at, right?
Right. And it will never feel like a sales pitch. It never should feel like a
No.
sales pitch. It's an educational process, as much transparency as we can offer. Everything's going to be through the reports. It's not just going to be one person's opinion. It's not going to be cookie cutter. It's going to be based off of your current situation.
Exactly. Well, hey, great show today. So, if our listeners want to get that set up, want to set up a no charge, no obligation consultation, just mention you heard it on the radio or on the podcast. How do they get a hold of you?
Give us a call, 916-469-9016. That's 916-469-9016. Or you can go to our website, thematterfinancialgroup.com.
All right. And that does it for today's episode of the Matter Financial Report with our host, Michael Matter.